I'm still new to dominating, and getting a scene started feels awkward for me. Being remote adds an additional level of complexity. A lot of it is planning and negotiating what and when with my submissive. We don't have a set time each week or month we play. We use open and honest communication and work together as best we can. I'm wondering how to better navigate this sticky area for me currently. I'm hoping this is more just nerves, and time with practice will increase the chances of play happening overall. Can you please help or suggest ideas around DS play while remote, specifically around play getting started? Wonderful question. All right, Laura. So, first thing that kind of piques my curiosity in your brilliant question is, what specifically feels awkward to you, sweetie? When you're saying that getting a scene started feels awkward for you, I know you said getting a scene started, but what about that? When you're planning, when you're kind of going through your head, what part of it is awkward? Coming up with ideas, coming up with how to initiate the submissive, like how to get him in the scene or her in the scene. What's coming up for you? Is it how to end the scene? Is it, I mean, there could be a ton of variables. So can you put your finger on maybe some specifics? What is feeling awkward to you? Can't always hear him. Okay, well, that's the first thing. Find a method of communication that you know that you're understanding each other fully. If he needs better audio, that's a task that you need to instruct him. And you say, we're not playing until I can hear you properly, because you don't want to be in your head about that, right? Make sense? So I would say task him that first. If you can't always hear him, if he has shitty audio, that's the first task. He needs to improve his audio so that he can properly hear his queen and be instructed by her. That's number one. Always make sure there's clear communication. And in that, if he needs time to get new audio, then text only. Something that you know, that you know, that you know, that you hear him and understand him fully. That's going to help get you out of your head, number one. Now, as far as coming up with scene ideas, things like that, distance wise, the best advice that I could give you, because I would need to know a lot about your submissive to give you specific ideas, but best advice I could give you, not going into all of your submissive's kinks and history and all of that, is make it as organic as possible. Use the context that's provided to you and make it as organic as possible. What do I mean by that? Use whatever comes up in their life and kind of springboard off of that, because that is going to make this experience, whether you're pro or not, so much more authentic and realistic for the submissive. For instance, when I was a pro, I really wouldn't, I would have thorough negotiations, and I would have all of this data, files on my submissives, knowing here's what they really like, here's what they respond to, here's what turns them on, here's what turns them off, hard limits, soft limits, all of these things, right? You get all this data from your submissive, and this is what I would do. And then I would just, because how I did it as a pro is whoever basically was investing the most in me, I would invest the most time into them. And I had kind of a hierarchy there. So if I knew that I had a day or a time frame with the submissive, I would kind of gauge what they were doing in the moment at that time. And I remember one day in particular, I had one submissive who he was out buying a car, and it was my time to have fun. It was my time to play. And so I just started texting him, what are you doing? And he said that he's out looking at new cars, whatnot. And so that became my scene. I knew, and this was distance, this is on the phone, I knew how to rev him up in 4 words. I knew what to say, what to send him in a way that would make him lose his shit in front of the guy he's trying to buy a car from. So I was asking, okay, so you're negotiating price and everything right now? You're in his office? Yes, goddess. And so then I might send a little picture. I might say a couple words that I know really revs him up, makes him blush, gets him embarrassed, gets him feeling all kinds of subby. And at one point, he actually had to leave the meeting, go take care of his own business, and come back into the meeting, because I was engaging with him. What he was doing in his daily life became the scene. You see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? That makes sense. So, and it's going to be so much more. You want to talk about blissed out subspace? Oh my goodness. I had another sub who he was over in Jordan, and he came from a Muslim family in which the mother was very, very strict, and men were supposed to like act a certain way. And kneeling, oh my gosh, that was only used for like religious context, things like that. And so one day he was in the living room, and I just started talking to him. He was in the living room watching TV with his mom. And so I asked him to kneel in the living room in front of his mother while they're watching TV as he's talking to me. And he was like, I know it may seem like nothing to you, but he was like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, mistress, you don't know what you're asking. That is so humiliating. And if my mom catches me, da 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 da. And that was my in, because he had a total humiliation kink. And so I knew, okay, I don't care. Do it. And that became our engagement, our scene, our play in that moment. Giggle and smile widely. So, Laura, you picking up what I'm throwing down? Okay, once you have that fence line, it's really easy. Let them give you the context and just work with it. Work with what you're being given, and it'll be the most organic, authentic domination ever. Get to know them more and use it. Absolutely. Getting to know you so I can dominate you.